There is one that Daria suggested that I'd like to throw in there, and it's a little spicy.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't think what you're talking about is what Daria suggested, but go on.
What do you mean?
I think you're misremembering, but go ahead. Please.
You see what I have to put up with, Jaime
Let's
Buxton?
hear what I said.
Let's hear what I said.
We had Mark Caleb Smith on yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Daria did suggest
I did.
this.
Yeah, I did suggest this one.
So let's back up a little bit. So I was what now?
You're right.
Who was?
You.
Okay, don't take it too far. This is why they get
Yes, thank you, Jamie. This is why we get angsty, because you do this.
one
I
bell
trust and
was
believe
worthy
You're right.
and move on.
Yes, thank you, Jamie.
We all see the glimmer in your eye. It was a win. Just move on.
I'm all alone in here, Ron. So we had Dr. Mark Caleb Smith on yesterday for an hour. He's from Cedarville. He's a political science professor.
It was very good.
And we had a whole hour of your questions and our questions. We covered a lot of ground from the Electoral College.
Why is there two parties? Is it the best thing to have two parties?
And
I
guess what?
listened again.
You can listen to it again.
Yeah, I listened last night again.
I've got part way through it. I have to be careful because my kids are always like, listen to yourself again, huh, Dad?
No, see, it's called an air check. I do this because I need to get better.
They don't believe that.
And I did it because when you're in the moment, you're not really thinking about the whole.
Yeah.
And I wanted to listen to it as a whole, like out of the experience to see how it went.
And there's a lot of depth in what he had to share. Because we got into some of the real important stuff when it comes to American government that Americans are either forgetting or don't know about the why things are the way they are deal. And he also spent a significant amount of time talking about Christians in voting.
Yes.
In that there isn't just one way a Christian could vote. And he walked us through theologically, philosophically, how two Christians could reach completely different decisions when it comes to the voting booth. Mm-hmm. And that's a very controversial thing for a lot of people. So I love Tim Keller wrote before he passed and went on to glory. He wrote a great article in the New York Times about how we don't fit in either party as believers. Mm-hmm. And this ought to be our disposition. Not that you don't have passions for one party or another, but you have to out of the gate know we don't fit in either.
Mm-hmm. Our identity is not in the party.
No.
Our identity is in Christ.
And we're very nonpartisan. So is Dr. Smith, which is why we trust him so much. He's genuinely nonpartisan. It doesn't mean he doesn't vote, doesn't have opinions. No, he does. But he loves Jesus more. He loves Jesus more. Mm-hmm. And so he's willing to talk critically about things, and he wants Jesus to be glorified, not his position in his party. So that said, we got some really interesting responses yesterday. And Daria, since it was your idea, share with us what you observed.
Yeah, so we were very, very intentional about being nonpartisan, being very balanced. We obviously are not swayed to one party or the other. And we had two texts within a very short period of time. One saying your speaker is clearly pro-Trump, and then another one that said you're clearly pro-Kamala. So wow. It's so interesting how you can hear the exact same conversation and you kind of just... You hear what you want to hear. I'm sure that was influenced by your own bias, one way or the other. So it's just very interesting that those are two completely separate takeaways, and you're really reaching because neither of those things was evident.
And now a lot of people would be disconcerted by that if you're not used to doing what we do. I actually saw that as affirming.
Well, that's what I said when I read the notes. I said, that's awesome.
That
you guys
we
did
were
exactly
accused
what
of
you're
both.
supposed
It
to
means
do.
we did our job,
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, oh yeah. But I know that the individual who wrote, oh, I see how it is. You all are pro-Trump.
Right.
Okay. That person spent the rest of their day going, I knew it.
Right.
And they went and they told their friends. And the same with the person that texted us saying, oh, these people on this Mornings with Brian, they're obviously pro-Harris. They're secret and they're trying to convince us all.
Yeah.
Like they decided. And they couldn't be more wrong on either of those things.
No one yesterday shared who they're voting for. Nobody said anything about who they're voting for.
And to be honest, like I don't really care who anybody votes for.
Yeah, I'm just saying no one was explicit in saying that, so you actually can't say what we are or aren't.
So I think the place we have to go with this is why does that happen? Mm-hmm. Because this happens to people in life in many areas. but they're accused of being something, and you go, wait, what? You think I'm that? And they're not that.
Yeah.
So my interpretation of what happened, so the Trump person, again, we are nonpartisan. The Trump person was very happy because he thought he heard pro-Trump stuff. The Kamala person was very angry because they thought they heard pro-Kamala stuff. So my thoughts are the pro-Trump person heard something that they liked and just assumed that because they liked it, we agree with them politically. And the opposite being true for the pro-Kamala person. When he said something that stepped on their toes, they just assumed that we swayed opposite of them politically.
No, we just... we wanted to talk to a political science professor about how when you put the lens of Jesus in front of everything you do, you can look at things critically.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is indicative of how, as well, we've stopped listening and hearing as a culture.
Yeah, we're obsessed with categorizing people.
It's an obsession.
Yeah.
It's odd, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have a desperate need in this country to create for and against, yes or no, and to place everyone in one of those categories.
Right.
And nobody gets accused of being a moderate anymore.
No, it's not allowed.
No, you're either a flaming liberal communist or a right-wing extremist Nazi.
Right.
And there's nothing in between.
In fact, if someone were to claim to be nonpartisan or a moderate, they would be, the person would scoff and go, well, that's a lie. I just don't even, so how did we get to this point / why is this a thing? Why are we so hell-bent on putting people into categories?
I think it makes us feel better.
What do you mean?
Because then we can go around and we feel safe because we know who we can or can't trust based upon their standpoints on things.
Yeah, it's like we need to know if you're in the, it's like high school again. You're
Are
in
you-
or out.
Exactly. Are you in or are you out? Are you with me or are you against me?
Yeah.
Where are you? So I know how to feel about you about everything.
And that's actually, it's overly simplistic, and it gives the appearance, though, of comfort and safety,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if I know if you're good or bad or in or out, I know if I'm safe.
Mm-hmm.
I know who my friends are and who they're not.
And it completely disregards the first and primary thing that we are, which is made in the image of God.
I think also people are afraid to have their own opinions. They need other people to agree with them.
Mm.
And so
Ooh.
that's very validating.
Yeah, people are uncomfortable with someone who doesn't agree with them. So they need to pick out the people that agree with them.
Oh, and they don't want to stand on their own.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes they can't. Right? I mean, if we base our opinions based on what someone tells us is the case versus what we've researched and learned and know, it's pretty scary when someone challenges you because you can't defend yourself. Because you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you slip into what's called an ad hominem attack, which is you just attack the person.
Yeah.
I do it for silliness, but it's like, oh yeah, well, your mom is that. Your mom's the one who's dumb. You just go right for the mom joke.
Mm-hmm. Or you start talking about their intelligence.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You attack the person. You didn't actually talk about ideas. But what I want to get into in a minute, though, is as easy as this is as a tendency for us to do. I have the tendency to do this. It is more comfortable to place people into overly simplistic categories and things. And do I like it or not like it? Like I decided a number of years ago, Pepsi is it for me, not Coke. I'm done. I've made a decision. I can't waffle anymore. It's
You are
easier
wrong.
this way. No, I'm correct, actually. I think Christians, this is the most unchristian thing you could do. Not the most, it's one of the most unchristian things you could do is to overly simplify all things in life and place people into one category or another. I want to think about this from a faith perspective, about how we handle listening in a politically volatile era here in just a minute. We've got Jaime Buxton in all morning for a follow-up Friday. Yay, Jamie.
Yay, me.
And we're talking about, currently, we had a conversation yesterday with Dr. Mark Caleb Smith about politics in this season and how Christians should approach voting, how we should understand American government in a volatile era, answered lots of political questions. And we continued to, and I think successfully executed our nonpartisanship.
I think so too.
And we had Daria observed we had one person text in, I knew it, you guys are all pro-Trump. And then somebody else, I knew it, you guys are all pro-Harris. I knew it, gotcha. And we see that as a sign of success, actually, when we're accused of both. But our tendency to do that, to listen for gotcha, is a problem. And believers should not be doing that. And we're going to, what?
And also, to say that is as if we're not allowed to think something other than you. Like that someone's not allowed to vote for somebody else. And that's like, please tell me where in Scripture you see that.
Yeah, the presumption that because someone might have a different reason for voting or voting different than you, that they're a bad person is crazy. I mean, let's be honest. Very few politicians are good people. So let's not judge the character of their voters by who they're voting for.
But we take it a step further. There's a lot of Christians who, if you ask them, they'd say, well, no, I don't really believe that. But I think there's a depth at which people believe if you disagree with me politically, you're probably not saved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's why you
very
see posts like,
problematic.
I'm voting for such and such. Delete me if you don't agree. I just saw one this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
We used to be able to associate with people that disagreed with us. And that's become such a lost art.
Yeah, I appreciated yesterday Dr. Smith saying, these are not salvation issues. They're important issues. They are issues that affect our culture and affect how we live day-to-day life, but these are not salvation issues. And so to act as if they are is not right.
I mean, the introduction to Galatians, Paul gets really wound up, and he's like, listen, if you add anything to the gospel, that's it. This is the Bryan translation. This is not, you can't add anything to the gospel. And when people even begin in their heart to believe that someone who disagrees with them in American politics isn't saved, they've violated Scripture. You've raised up political affiliation to salvation, and that is not what saves you. We're all going to get to heaven and find out how many things we were wrong about, and there'll be a long list. A long list.
Oh, yeah.
I developed, and just from compiling some things, not like they're all new ideas, but I have a list of 6 things followers of Jesus can do to listen well when in an era like this. I want to get to that in a minute, but first, let's jump to the phones. We got Anonymous on the line. Hey, Anonymous, what do you have for us?
Hello. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
I just was sharing, I think it was Daria that answered my call, that you guys did a fantastic job yesterday. And I was telling her, I said that, and I agree with you guys 100%. You do such a fantastic job for us as listeners to not be on one side or the other, but to give everything straight down the middle and always with the Bible at hand and what the Bible says and pertains to. And I think it's such an important thing. And when I was going back and listening, and I was kind of laughing because yesterday, whenever, you guys were talking about, you got one person saying, oh, you must do this, and the other person saying that. My first thought was that means that you did a phenomenal job of covering everything the whole way around the board. And it just is really, really sad, I think, in today's part where people are afraid to say, hence why I am as anonymous, because I know people who listen to this radio station, and it's like, you're like, I don't want someone to think, well, this is that or the other, because we have so much that we have to face in this political battle that it's just insane. And us as believers, it shouldn't matter to us who someone's voting for or why they're voting for them. That's our right to be able to vote. And I just appreciate the fact that in this tense time, that you guys you knocked it out of the park yesterday. It just was great. And I just wanted to affirm with you guys that, keep doing a great job. Keep preaching the word. Keep just bringing us in. I love your morning show and everything you guys stand for. So just thank you. Just as encouragement, because I know your job is not easy. I would not want to do it. I might be able to push the buttons occasionally, but other than that, I wouldn't want to do anything else. So, kudos to you guys. Fantastic.
Very kind and gracious of you. Thank you for that affirmation and for your words. And we're also, of course, grateful to hear that our intention is received. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to be misunderstood or poorly communicate, and so we're glad to hear that you feel that way. God bless you, sister.
Bless you as well. We'll see you guys.
You bet. So that was nice. Ways we should listen, because I think the texts we got from people who were making presumptions about our positions are indicative of really bad listening.
Right.
So how can we listen as Christians? And I'm just throwing this out as a proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot it down if you don't like these. 6 things. First one, begin with benefit of the doubt,
Yes.
particularly when speaking with a fellow believer. As in 1 Corinthians 13 says, love always trusts, always hopes. So what you're doing is you're assuming the best in others. You're not expecting the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And so before you even begin having a conversation with somebody, you just go, Lauren has good intentions. She cares. She loves Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I can care about Lauren as I enter this conversation, even if we disagree. Like benefit of the doubt, all right? But a lot of us enter conversation assuming the other person is an idiot
Right.
Yes.
because you suspect they may disagree. Second thing a Christian should do is accept that that people aren't exclusively intellectually binary, as in they're not voter guides and check boxes. People are nuanced and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible for somebody to have a position that sounds contradictory to their vote. You follow me?
Right.
Do you disagree? Like, people are not exactly binary. They may have an I don't know, or a maybe, or a sometimes. They may not 100% agree with how you subscribe to, for example, what it means to be pro-life.
Right.
May have a nuanced view of that. Whatever that means. Don't make any assumptions of me, but I'm just saying, like, it's possible. Yeah?
And every party has built a platform of what they call planks, and you may agree with 2 or 3 planks and disagree with 2 or 3 planks. And so you may be leaning toward one party, although you disagree with 30% of what they're endorsing.
And that is possible and intellectually honest.
Mm-hmm.
Third thing, remember your fallen nature if you want to listen well. You are deeply flawed and biased.
Yeah.
And you don't know everything, and your assumptions are probably wrong. Like if you go in there with the presumption, I'm probably wrong on this. I got to have something wrong here because I'm fallen and broken. That's the humility we're supposed to have as Christians. I don't have it all figured out. Yeah. Okay, next one. Be conscious of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to look for information that supports rather than rejects one's preconceptions. Or put another way, a type of cognitive bias or thinking that favors information that confirms your previously existing beliefs. As in, I think that the people that texted us yesterday, that they're convinced that we're for one side or the other, they already thought that before it started.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they had to have.
And so they were listening for that.
And as soon as they heard something that they believed confirmed their preconceived notion, they go, see, told you, told you. And they stopped listening. That's confirmation bias. You've got to be aware of it and know that you could be wrong, basically. Next, listen for understanding, not for responding. If you're formulating your response while you listen, you're not listening.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In marriage, that's the hardest thing to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when Sean starts saying, Jamie, you hurt my feelings when you're suddenly going, no, I didn't. But no,
Well, actually,
you did.
I never hurt Sean's feelings. Actually, correct. Sean would never express that I hurt his feelings.
And finally, to be a follower of Christ who listens well, you got to ask clarifying questions to ensure you understand correctly. Like I've grown to assume that even if I think I'm listening well, I probably missed something. I was talking to a friend the other day on the phone about a difficulty they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And when we finished the call, before we hung up, I said, hold on a minute. I want to circle back. I want to be sure I understand you correctly. Am I correct that you said X, Y, and Z? And they'd go, yes. And I've done that with Sarah where I go, if I understand you correctly, you're saying blah, da, 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 da. No, Brian, that's not what I said.
yeah.
Yes.
In fact,
I mean, either way is good. The clarifying is good.
yeah, you need to do it because, in fact, our counselor, our marriage counselor, has served as an interpreter. She'll be like, Sarah, what Brian said is da 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 da. She says it in Sarah language, and I sometimes can't speak that. And Sarah goes, oh, okay. So what do you think? Did I nail it a little bit? That's how Christians ought to be listening. You are starting with benefit of the doubt. You're accepting that people are nuanced. You're remembering your fallen nature, that you're biased and you're probably wrong. You're conscious of confirmation bias, that what you already thought may not be true. You're listening for understanding, not to what you're going to say in response, and that you're asking clarifying questions when you're done to be sure you understand. That's how Christians do it.
Yes.
Lauren's our theologian. Am I doing okay?
Yes.
No heresy in there?
Mm-mm.
It's really hard to do. I'm terrible at this.
It is very hard. I don't think it comes naturally to us. We're always trying to protect ourselves. That's like our first thing. That's what people want to do is protect ourselves.
Yeah, we're all on a hairpin trigger.
Yeah. Psychologist Ray Kane. I'm saying Ray so I don't be accused of talking about Nancy Kane again, my good friend and mentor. He says that 90% people are walking around triggered all the time. And we always have a choice to be reactive or reflective about what somebody says. Usually we're reactive.
Yeah. Isn't it beautiful, though, when it doesn't take you 3 days to figure out, like, oh, that was actually a me trigger, and, like, come to understanding with the person. I just had one this week where I was misunderstood. I was misunderstanding somebody else. And in, typical Jamie fashion, I burst into tears and got super emotional and realized in that moment that it wasn't even what this person was saying. It was an old trauma. That sounds more than what it was, but it obviously was a trauma to me because the way I was responding, I spent the whole morning in tears over a very silly thing. And what the person who I was upset by our interaction thought was, that I was upset about what she said, but it really was this old hurt. And it really was a beautiful, couple of hours of we had words, then we had words again, and then we had words one more time. And it was like, I see how I had a part in this, and I see that it wasn't also you. It was me being hurt, and you just kind of reopened an old wound that had nothing to do with you. And we were able to get to that quickly. But it took effort on both ends to be like clarifying. I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's a beautiful example of being reflective instead of reactive.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like initially you were reactive.
100%.
But you allowed yourself to go to reflection. What most of us do is if we feel hurt, we assume the other person's just a horrible person that's trying to hurt us. And we lock into that position.
Yeah.
And we play the victim rather than being reflective and going, wait, what's going on here? Why did I get so upset with someone I care about?
Well, and I'd give the credit to the other person who said, so you're reacting to this because I didn't like this. And I was like, no, not at all. I don't care if you don't like my idea. It's this. It's this imposter syndrome I have from way back. And you just unlocked it. Please don't think I care about if you like this thing that I did, or, this product I had created, basically. And it was a really beautiful thing of how when you're in tune with how to listen and how to also communicate, you can do better. And I'm not saying I get it right all the time. I'm saying that was one instance, and it just happened to be this week.
No, but it was a beautiful example because the person you're talking to did what I was mentioning, which is asking clarifying questions afterwards. Right. She was. I want to understand why you're upset. Yeah. I'm not going to assume why you're upset, because usually, by the way, when we assume why someone's upset, we're usually wrong.
Yes, and she was, and it made me a little bit angry that what she assumed. I was like, no, that is like, it was not like the best moment of that interaction, because I was like, no, that's not why I'm upset. But then I was able to go, oh, but why I'm upset really has nothing to do with you. So.
But that's such an emotionally and spiritually mature thing to do, and it's so hard, Jamie. I want to be like Jamie when I grow up.
No, you don't.
Like it's hardest to do that in marriage.
Oh, yeah.
This has been, Sarah, my biggest journey is trying to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Sean and I do not have this down, but this particular occasion with somebody else, this was good.
It was so good, because what I used to do is she'd be like, oh, you hurt me when you did X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, oh, don't worry, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
No. Not really, no. But it was a nice try.
I didn't realize how destructive that was for so long.
Yeah.
Listening well matters so much. And I think as Christ ambassadors, we've got to be we've got to work on this and be really good at it, because in a country right now where people are not able to hear or listen to each other,
Right.
and we make snap decisions and we condemn and we make people other, we need to stand apart. This is how we can represent Jesus, is be people in politics in particular who listen well and are gracious and generous and give benefit of the doubt and plant our flag with Christ, not with a party.